Guys, this game is called Witchspire and it's an open world survival crafting game, where of course you play as a witch, and the developers were kind enough to send me a full version review key. So what you're getting here is a proper look at the whole thing. And of course what makes this game immediately stand out from many other games in the genre is that this game actually commits to that fantasy in a way that most games never really do. Because let's be honest guys, usually in these games magic is often a coat of painting over the same old survival loop. You're still chopping trees and carrying rocks, with a bit of sparkle thrown on top. But Witchspire does something different here. For example, when you need wood, you can call forth a forest. And when you need to harvest resources, you can make magical pickaxes fly out and do the work for you. So the magic is a substantial gameplay system. And to be fair, it looks impressive too. A very bright and stylized art style. Feels like a fantasy world someone actually cared about building, rather than a generic green forest with some particle effects. So how does this game start out? You begin by picking a character and joining a coven, which is essentially a faction that gives you a passive bonus. To name a few, Cloud Piercers deal extra damage, while Night Scribes crit more often. You also pick a starting familiar. This is your companion creature, and familiars are honestly one of the best parts of the game. You can command them to attack enemies, while they simultaneously grow their own skill trees over time. And since there are different rarities out in the world, you have a real reason to go hunting for better ones. It almost has a Pokemon-ish feeling to it, but we have to be careful mentioning this word. But of course these creatures run around and fight beside you. Now, to be transparent and fair, this familiar system still feels like it still has a lot of room to grow. The skill trees are pretty thin at the moment, and the differences between creatures are not always that interesting yet. Let's take a look at the combat. Of course the combat uses a wand, where you can fire quick shots or charge up a bigger burst. And there's also a spell blade, a magic sword. You can use this to close the distance. Your skills level up through actual use, so the more you fire your wand, the better it gets. Not the first time we have seen this by any stretch, but it makes the progression feel a bit more natural. But let's get to the most impressive part, that's the building system. It is genuinely smooth. Many survival games rarely manage that. When you enter build mode, your character does this glowing blue astral projection thing, where you float completely off the ground, and you can drift around freely to place pieces wherever you want. Everything also snaps together very cleanly, and the buildings themselves really do look charming. Unfortunately, I'm not that creative when it comes to building, but we have seen that you definitely can put together something that honestly looks like a proper witch's cottage, with these gothic peaked rooftops, and it's also very detailed, with stone walls covered in vines. The building was not a frustrating experience in this game, which it sometimes is for me in other games. Now this game has a talent system called luminaries, where you spend points to unlock things. And this may be one of the weakest parts of the game at the moment. It mixes stat upgrades together with crafting recipes and building types, which of course means you sometimes end up in the awkward position of choosing between getting better at fighting and being able to build new things and progress. Actually, I should perhaps rephrase that. I don't want it to come across as the concept is bad, but the whole tree feels a bit thin and underdeveloped right now. It needs a bit more content before it really starts feeling satisfying to work towards this. Thankfully, the actual resource gathering has a nice magical personality to it. The materials have names like Spirit Dust, Shimmer Dust, and Verdant Bloom, rather than the normal boring generic labels. And the game is packed with little things like this. It really helps make the world feel like its own place, and help it stand out from others. Your base is anchored around a hearth that you level up to unlock more options over time. All of this has a pretty nice and comfortable rhythm to it, and this rhythm does click fairly quickly. Also a couple of smaller things that are definitely worth mentioning. Crafting lets you queue up multiple items at once, so you don't have to babysit them one at a time. And there are quality of life features like crafting homebound scrolls that basically wrap you back to your base, which saves a huge amount of backtracking. The world itself feels handcrafted and not randomly generated, and exploring it consistently turns up worthwhile. You can find stuff like shrines that permanently expand your inventory, diary pages that slowly explain what you're doing here, and different biomes that each have their own feel. Enemy camps have different enemy types, and there are also proper boss encounters if you go looking. Now I will say that the combat can start to feel a bit thin once the novelty wears off, since the actual enemy variety and your available abilities are still relatively limited at this stage. So as for where the game currently sits, The developers have been pretty clear about this. All the fundamental systems are in and working, so you're not getting a skeleton of a game here, despite early access. The plan is, however, to stay in early access for at least a year and a half, and the roadmap includes a bigger world, more creatures, more spells, and more story to dig through. To be fair, given how much room systems like the talent tree and creature variety still have, that extra development time feels necessary. The atmosphere is where this game really does something worth paying attention to. It feels like a magic world from the ground up. So if similar to Subnautica 2 for example, you enjoy being part of the journey, then I can recommend this at this stage. Just go in with realistic expectations, knowing that it's early access. And this sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.